repenting for what have done Empress BudaZuRi. Yuan WenZong TutMuEr. Rod was born in October of the 11th year of the date 1307 into a distinguished family. Her father was the king of Lu, Empress, and her mother was the daughter of WenZong, the Grand Princess of Lu, Sangaraji. Struggle for the imperial throne. In the first year of the Taiding era 1324, BudaZuRi had already grown to be 17 or 18 years old. She was graceful and beautiful, well-mannered, skillful in planning, and appeared to be more mature. In September of this year, Emperor Taiding and son Timur will be living in Hainan was his second son TutMuEr called back to the capital. In October, TutMuEr was named King of Hui. BudaZuRi married King Hui and became his consort by the Emperor's decree, the Crown Prince's struggle. At this time, BudaZuRi Queen already had 3 sons. The first son Tara, the second son was Tara, later renamed Yantaigusi, and the third was Tapingna. In March of the first year of the Shishan era 1330, the Imperial edict named Tada the King of Yan. BudaZuRi calculated in his mind that the postal king Yuan and TutMuEr were still in the palace, and were a potential threat to the establishment of his son Tara's position as the crown prince. Therefore, BudaZuRi pointed her finger at the 2 young sons of Emperor WenZong, and she often told Emperor WenZong what was at stake. The emperor felt that they were too young and weak to be sent abroad and promised to discuss the matter at a later stage. But BudaZuRi was unwilling to give up. She said to TutMuEr's birth mother, "My lady was of low birth, and she was only a concubine in the royal family." Because of the difference between the first and the concubine, the emperor had already established Yuan as Yuan. However, after all, TutMuEr was older, and if, after a few years, he asked the emperor for the title of king, or even as the eldest son of WenZong, coveted, I'm afraid that it would bring a lot of trouble. It would be better to take advantage of his youth and send him far away to the border. To make clear the difference between the first and the last sons, Emperor WenZong was an emperor deeply influenced by Han Confucian orthodoxy. After being told by BudaZuRi, he felt that it was very reasonable, so he immediately ordered TutMuEr, who was only 10 years old, to be expelled from the palace and exiled to an island in Goryeo, present-day North Korea, where he was not allowed to have any contact with outsiders. After TutMuEr was exiled, only the young Yuan was left alone, very pitiful. To eliminate the danger, Empress BudaZuRi also wanted to exile him, but fortunately, Emperor WenZong was still a little bit sympathetic, thinking that Yuan was too young and never agreed to send him abroad. In August this year, the royal historian ministers, "Please set up Yan Wang as the crown prince." WenZong expressed his refusal. "Prince is still young, to be discussed later." But BudaZuRi was so eager to establish the crown prince that he secretly summoned all the kings and ministers and encouraged them to continue to request for the quick establishment of the crown prince. He also took the opportunity to persuade Emperor WenZong to accept everyone's suggestion as soon as possible to satisfy the wishes of all of them. So, Emperor WenZong pushed the boat into the water, and firstly, he ordered the Taipao Yan to offer sacrifices to the ancestral temple. And then he made the king of Yan, Tara, the crown prince. BudaZuRi finally realized his goal of making his son the crown prince, sacrificing his son to make a nephew. In the first month of the second year of the reign of Emperor Shishan 1331, the king of Yan, who had just been made the crown prince, died of illness. Emperor WenZong and Empress BudaZuRi were both in deep grief at the same time. and sighing. Na Wan Yi, a series of quality classes. It was the last emperor of the Yuan dynasty, the Shun Emperor. At that time, the Empress Dowager stipulated that, after TutMuEr, he would pass on the throne to Yan Taigusi. What goes around comes around. When Emperor Shun took the throne, he listened to the advice of WenZong's former minister, Hui Timur. He left all the important matters to be handled by the Imperial Counselor, the right Prime Minister, Yan, and the left Prime Minister, Sadin, who was the younger brother of Yan Timur. BudaZuRi participated in the government as the Empress Dowager and was favored for a while. In August of the 4th year of the reign of Emperor Shun 1333, BudaZuRi, because of Yan Timur's outstanding achievements in his life, took his daughter, Dana Luri, into the harem and ordered Emperor Shun to appoint her as the queen. The Shun Emperor had no choice but to comply with the order. In December, the Shun Emperor for the Empress Dowager BudaZuRi set up regent Yuan and officials of 366 members, specializing in managing the Empress Dowager's daily life matters. Yuan tuned to years 1334 in October, the Jade Book, Jade Treasure, on the BudaZuRi title as Zantin Kaisheng Renshu Hui Yufao Xuan Empress Dowager. In December of the first year of the reign of Yuan 1335, Emperor Shun, to show his respect for BudaZuRi, defied the fierce opposition of some courtiers and against common sense, issued an imperial edict honoring his aunt's mother, BudaZuRi, as the Empress Dowager, and praised BudaZuRi in the imperial edict for her achievements of taking up the trust of the 9 temples and setting in motion the work of the 2 dynasties. BudaZuRi heard the imperial edict and was overjoyed. The same day, royal palace of the Exing Sheng accepted the kings of the 100 officials to congratulate them. At this moment, she was mesmerized by the majestic and grand scene before her. However, even though Shun Emperor appeared to be very favorable to BudaZuRi in reality, he had not forgotten for a moment the murder of his father and mother and his exile in the border area. In February of the 6th year of the reign 1340, Emperor Shun, with the assistance of TutMuEr, basically held the court's power in his own hands and began to take merciless revenge on BudaZuRi. In the 6th month of the same year, Emperor Shun issued an imperial edict revoking the temple of Emperor WenZong, resettling BudaZuRi in Donggun Prefecture present-day Anjie, Hebei Province, and banishing the Crown Prince, Yantaguzi, to Goryeo. The imperial edict counted the crimes of WenZong, BudaZuRi plotting to murder Mingzong and the Queen of the 8 No Shahs. But Sully was in his complacency, unsuspecting of Emperor Shun, and when this change suddenly struck him, he was at his wits' end, and could only cry with his son, Yantai-gas, who had been sentenced to imprisonment. Under the strict supervision of the prison officials, BudaZuRi and her son hastily packed their belongings and left the palace in anger. Just outside the capital, mother and son were forced to separate, and not allowed to travel together. BudaZuRi, facing the parting of life and death, scolded Emperor Shun for not treating her mother and son in such a way. Xu Jing, the royal inspector, seized the situation and asked the Shun Emperor not to exile the young and ignorant Yantaguzi. The Shun Emperor firmly refused to do so. Empress Dowager to the east and Zhou, people and places of 2 lives, full of bleakness, associated with the former trouble of the power, cannot help but grief and anger. Soon, it is angry into a disease, depressed and dies at the age of more than 30 years old. Dying with tears, they said, "I regret I should not listen to Yan Timur, or how would it have ended up like this?" Prince Yan TutMuEr, in exile on the way, was also killed by the prison officer Yu Quoker.